Hello? Oh, he's hasn't even got a microphone and he's talking over me. Hello, welcome back to Cairngorm. We had a wee bit of a break there, just for no reason other than it's actually quite hard work to bring all of this production value together for you. So thank you for bearing with us. To make up for not being here last week, we've brought two guests in. Double whammy. Still within 20 minutes though, so don't be getting too concerned about losing all of your lunch break. Yeah, this is Cairncast. We're here again to discuss interesting topics in specialty coffee, quite often ones that we have been questioning ourselves within the roastery during the week, or just random thought processes we have, and we try and flesh them out and get the opinion of others while we go. Today we've got two of our own. One of us, got George and Cam. You want to say hello? That was it.
Hello.
Who are both baristas for a longer time at Bonnie and Wild. They're starting to do shifts in both shops, get a feel for Cairngorm as a whole. I guess, how have you found that? That's quite an interesting question for a start. Quite different outlets. Bonnie and Wild.
I think we both really enjoyed having the balance. I think that's something that we, after a while of working at Bonnie and Wild, we were starting to look for. I think, like you said, there's quite a big difference in terms of the workflow at both shops and the environment you're working in. And I think both have got both have definitely got advantages, but I think it's good to have the balance. I think it helps you as a barista as well, like working in different conditions with a different team as well. Keeps everything fresh, so it's nice. Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
I think because I started at Melville whenever I started at Cairngorm and then moved to Bonnie and Wild, I think coming back to Melville now as a barista and being in the what feels like, because it's been quite a while since I was like at Melville. Mm-hmm. It's because so much has happened and we've improved so much in terms of like the way that we're running things, the way that the whole like place is laid out. It's completely different. But I think starting at Bonnie and Wild really taught me a lot in terms of workflow, because they are so different in terms of how they run.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I would imagine, I hope that you can see, like, there's quite a lot of the actual coffee processes have been mirrored. Like, obviously, when we opened Frederick Street, we didn't have a clue really how to run a cafe. And then Melville was like here's how we're trying to execute like the perfect coffee workflow. And we had an opportunity to but that was only year 2 or 3 of my kind of career of running a cafe, so still pretty early doors. Bonnie Wild was obviously then kind of 8 years in, but we feel quite lucky that Melville did actually we did kind of hit the nail on the head to a certain extent. Like, there's not a huge amount that I would want to change, but I think, in terms of like working left to right, in terms of having an EK for decaf shots and having another one, same machine, same grinder, like the issue is, I guess, like having a till in a different position, having like those kind of processes are slightly different, but yeah.
I think those things will always happen, especially when you're being hosted by someone else. But like, I think Bonnie and Wild, we've managed to really, like, from when we started, I think we've really managed to like cut down the workflow, and we've just got like a really good like process now on how we all work. And I think the team is fantastic, so we all work together really, really well. And I mean, even the only main difference in terms of workflow between Melville and Bonnie is like there's one less grinder, because with like the single origins going through the EK. But to be honest, I'm finding that it's actually really good to just explore more coffees and like just really trying to have as many different options at Bonnie as possible to try and sort of emphasize the range. Is really good fun.
Yeah. So for people that don't or maybe understand what you're saying there, we in the shop in the West End in Melville Place, we have 2 grinders which have coffee in the hoppers. One's a single origin we use for black espresso. One is, or you can upsell yourself to try that, but the other one is one that we've got our guilty pleasure for milk. And then we will always have a special espresso and a decaf going through a single dose grinder where we have pre-dosed shots that we run through when they're ordered. But at Bonnie and Wild, we've omitted the black grinder and we just have the milk, and we have black coffee going through the single dose grinder. Probably made it even more complicated there, but it's we've kind of tried to, we've recognized probably that the majority, or not the majority, the majority and of our customers opt for milk-based coffee, and it's not a huge inconvenience then for you to have to make espressos or long blacks through. But maybe you disagree with that.
I mean,
give me another grinder.
It definitely presents some sort of like things to think about in terms of your workflow. Definitely when we're hopping between, like you might have just ground something on the batch brewer that's really quite coarse, and then you're coming back up to, switch between maybe a couple of guest coffees and decaf. And so if you add in like variables as well with how busy you are, you can sort of need to be quite switched on in terms of how you're paying attention to that and sort of shifting things around to make sure things are running right. But yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to give you some coffee and encourage you to keep that microphone close to your mouth.
Okay.
Don't be shy. Don't be scared. We've got our spring special here, haven't we? Oh my God, I've given you so much and I'm going to have none here.
It's fine.
This is the dregs. I'm getting the dregs. Leaders eat last. Have you heard that expression?
Family hold back.
Cheers.
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 Make great memories,
Make
mugs.
great memories.
Which probably leads us on to our reason for having this podcast 10 minutes in.
See, now that my nose is cleared out, I can taste it even more. That's fantastic.
Oh, there you go. You've heard it here first. So we want to talk about, I guess, an overarching branding conversation around how people make coffee brands aspirational. One of the things that over the next few weeks we'll be kind of pushing some content out features. Have you got a name yet? The Explorers, the Barista Explorers.
Cairngorm.
Yeah.
Cairngorm. So both George and Cam like doing outdoor activities. Seems very vague, but it was probably a couple of months ago. You guys were heading into the hills. Was it the Cairngorms or was it?
No, we were up in the Highlands on the west coast, out at Noidart. There had a few days, quite remote walking, and then getting stuck in Inverie because of a big storm, and then having to get the ferry back. But it was really good, and we were sort of using that as a chance to like take our coffee making skills on the road and make some remote coffees. Yeah.
So how did you make coffee when you were there? Was it you were in a bothy? So
yeah, in a bothy.
Just normal, just in the kitchen.
We were packing pretty light, so just with the AeroPress, and we had some pre-dosed coffee in tubes, so we could try and minimise the faff. But I think the challenge is waking up as well.
Yeah. So did you have to? I guess you have to then sacrifice something to try and make your coffee outdoors. I mean, having to pre-grind is obviously like a bit of a sacrifice, not something you would want to do normally, but it's quite interesting.
Well,
do you
did
think it's possible to make as good a cup of coffee from a cafe as on top of a mountain?
I think it's definitely, it depends. I mean, obviously, like espressos are, even though you've got your Flair Neo, I don't think we're not going to be.
What's that?
It's like one of those big.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, like a
big lever
like
machine.
A manual press, like they had a Kickstarter thing, and
with like the kind of base.
Yeah, there's like a base, and but I think we could do.
Well, did you bring that today? Why did you not bring that?
I think we could do.
Put it in the Land Rover or something.
Yeah, we could do a bit of an experiment, see how much coffee gear you could take up a hill. And I mean, I think that's the thing is, if the process of making it is something that you really value, then you can sort of, even if it feels a bit silly, like you can take quite a lot of stuff with you and really try and like make as good a coffee as you would at home somewhere wild, and that is something really fun. Or you can really slim it down and just take an AeroPress and some pre-dosed coffee and make something that's still really enjoyable. Yeah.
Like we took the Comandante up with us, and even though like the weather was getting significantly worse as we were walking, that we'd arrived in the dark at this bothy, the firewood was damp, and it was all, but then there was this sort of like little glimmer of when we were going to sleep, the knowledge that the next morning, even though the weather was coming in, all our kit was wet, my shoes had fallen apart, there was a cup of Santa Luz in about 8 hours. And just that knowledge was really, really like, it was quite nice. And even like, I think we ended up prioritizing it over like making our food in the morning, because like you could just sit and like, it was just quite a nice little bit of process. Because I think it's like you can get a cable car up most of the way up Mont Blanc in the same way that you can get quite a decent cup of coffee quite quickly. But if you enjoy the process, if you enjoy the walk, or you enjoy like making the coffee, you might as well spend the time to do it and like really own the process and sort of own the moment. Because like it was such a nice thing to have while we were up there, even though we were lugging these
Yeah.
and the huge Commandante up, like
So would you maybe say that it's coffee worth getting up for?
100%. 100%.
Tackling.
Yeah, it was like the calm before the storm each morning, because you'd sort of like take a peek outside and it's like wind, rain like howling past, but then you just like shut it and be like, we've got 20 minutes and we can make a coffee before we go, and it helps you sort of face the day.
I love that because I genuinely have a similar thought process. Like quite often I will pre-dose my coffee when I'm going to bed at night. I'll put it in the Commandante or in the grinder so I know it's ready to go. And then I'll have like a filter in, like there's a bit of a process like before, and then it does just like it feels like it's different waking up then knowing like, oh, you've got something to look forward to. Like for me, it's like I've got to get up like ridiculous o'clock and look after the kids. So it's like it adds a little bit of a sweetener to that, where it's like, yeah, but I can enjoy. Yeah.
Well, there was just a really weird moment where like we were getting slightly snowed in, and I was eating rice that we didn't have. I didn't quite have enough gas to heat through properly, so I was eating cold rice. But my cup of coffee was perfectly extracted, and you're just like, I don't know where my priorities were, but I'm happy with the decisions I've made here.
I had the exactly same. The one time I've been outdoors. I went to. And here comes Robbie telling us ridiculous. It was like somewhere near Cape Wrath, so like pretty far north. Mm-hmm. And like my friend and I in summer holidays had like marched into. It's like some ridiculous, like incredible beach. I can't remember, but it wins like top 5 beaches in Scotland. Went like really far down, and it was the same stuff you were sending me, like wading through rivers and stuff. And we picked the time; it was 85-mile-an-hour winds, and we're like, "What are we doing?" Literally, like the tent poles are like are like bending into you.
Yeah.
Like literally sleeping, it's like touching your face. Like it's not good.
Perfect.
But
conditions.
we ran out of methylated spirit, and we had sausages on, and they were probably like 60%. But we're like, we don't really have any other food. Are sausages taking that too far? Probably. I think rice, arguably, you could probably get away with more. Maybe not. Need a microbiologist on here to discuss it.
Nutritionist.
Yeah. But we ended up having to leave because we ran out of gas. But I'm intrigued because the tie between coffee and outdoors and like hiking and like obviously we haven't leaned in that far to our own personal brand imagery, which we have every right to do because we have a mountain logo basically. So it does seem a bit mentally we haven't, but like there are a lot of brands out there that really lean into that, and that aren't all like necessarily tied directly to like the sales of tents or like sleeping bags or anything. Like obviously I always talk about Patagonia is a kind of a bit of an outlier. Like obviously they sell traditionally outdoors equipment, but they very much breach that like commercial market where they're mainstream. But I always like why do you have people who aren't going out in the wilderness wearing a Patagonia sweater? Like what's the tie that brings them to that? But it does feel like people want to feel connected to like that lifestyle. Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think for some people, like, yeah, if you look at a lot of the customers coming into shops, like people are dressed like they're going out on the hills, even if they're in the centre of Edinburgh. And I think
I'm just today.
Yeah,
like I'm wearing the.
Yeah, you look like you're about to go and do a job as an electrician or something.
These are my barista trousers because I don't mind them getting like absolutely caked in coffee.
Mind me the brand.
These are Fjallraven.
They'll reshare this. So.
Yeah.
Fjallraven.
But I mean, I think for some people it's that like they're sort of expressing what they, with all the like practicalities of life and job and family and stuff aside, a lot of people do wish they were, outside more and had the time and space to get out on the hills. And so it's more like reflecting that like side of their interests, even during the week when they might not be able to fulfill it. And then when they get a day off on the weekend or something, that's where they go.
There's also a quality element to it because I think if you're aware that you're what you're wearing day to day can sustain significantly more, then you're far more willing to like people like an AeroPress. Everyone knows that an AeroPress is completely bomb proof, so people are more inclined to use them every single day, and it's not as much of like a special occasion of I'm lying out. I've got all these specific this, and like a lot of my coffee stuff is very very well looked after, and then my AeroPress I'll just chuck it in the car and just leave, or like it'll just like I've gone on motorcycle tours where this has just been strapped to the outside, and this is sitting because
Surely that was unnecessary. That just
well,
seems.
just because there's such an like there's
By the way, I
there's
love
slightly-
specialty coffee.
they're a slightly awkward shape and things like that. So like you can just like strap it to the outside of your bag or whatever,
Yeah,
and they can put up with a huge amount.
So it's strapped to the bag. So it wasn't like
No, it's not strapped to the
it
motorcycle.
wasn't like a
It's
bungee.
no, like there's like a piece of netting that goes over the back of my
So it
pannier,
kind of was.
and it's sort of like it
That's
just
wild.
sits there, but it's secure, but you can just like I think that's where the quality element of that sort of thing, people are willing to let their kit be used properly if they know that it can be put up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same thing applies with, like the parallel with outdoor gears is that people will buy a jacket, to use in the centre of Edinburgh because they've seen it can survive like a Canadian winter. And when we're selling an AeroPress, like we can sort of say to people, you're not going to break it in the sink because we can stick it in a rucksack and go like hiking about with it. Whereas, other bits of equipment, like you can't say the same. So I think it gives that same proof to people, which is nice.
Yeah, I think as a business, we're in an interesting position where there's a parallel with that in the way that we sell our coffee. And that, we talked a lot about blending coffee, and Guilty Pleasure was like our blend that we put in milk. And the fact that that's like 80% of the coffee that we sell in our shops, because it's the coffee. That's class. We'll get on to that in a second. Sorry, it's ruining my train of thought. The fact that there's like 80% of the coffee we sell is our blend or Guilty Pleasure, it kind of is like our leverage to be like, hey, this is actually like genuinely good. So when we're trying to sell to wholesale customers, it's not just like, oh yeah, we're selling like our juicy strawberry, like super expensive coffees, but this will probably work for you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we're proving that it's operational and it's like successful in that kind of high volume cafe environment is the kind of proofs in the pudding, which is kind of like an interesting segue, but an interesting parallel to what you're saying, I think.
100%.
So come on then. Why? And also, what is this? Is that also strapped to your bike?
So this was a gift from Charles, one of the other baristas at Bonnie and Wild. He was in,
Unbelievable.
and George, because he went to Malaysia, and just because it's completely packable, and I just thought,
You bought this in Malaysia?
yeah, that's from Malaysia as well. There's also some like really special I think they're mainly hemp filters in there.
Are they like? This isn't a brand. This is just like some guys made this.
This is the brand is Jellyfish Pour Over.
We should be selling these.
But
There's so much
the fact that that's like
synergy there. Isn't
it's Cairngorm yellow and it's perfect, and I just thought it was a really nice because me and George we do a lot of like ultralighting and things like that, where the whole point is to be as cut down as possible. Like we do like the which is a big mountain marathon in October. And
wait, sorry, you say you do that? Is that so? You guys have done this before?
Well, George is coming and joining us this year. I've done it.
Like many things, I'm getting roped in now that I've met Cam. Like, things where we'll look at each other doing something a bit mad, and we'll be like, "I met you 4 months ago," and Cam's like, "Oh, I've done it a few times."
I've got a challenge for you then, which is something that I really wanted to do, and then it fell. It was happening in London at the same week or month that my first child was meant to be born, Jamie. Shout out to Jamie. But I was like, I can't possibly do that. Imagine having to trying to explain that I'm going to do this the same week my child, which was the Red Bull soapbox derby thing.
Nice.
How good? Like, Jack's
I think we
laughing,
should have a
guys.
Cairngorm team for that.
I really wanted to do it, and I wanted it to be like an espresso machine with like a barista driving the thing. I thought it'd be so funny, like a great advert. But also,
100%.
just we've obviously talked like in some jest sometimes about this "make great memories" like tagline, but I suppose the purpose of it is that we're like we're not just like make great coffee, like coffee's great, our coffee's the best. It's like we want to connect people's like experiences in their day to the start they've had with great coffee, and that's kind of like, I suppose the aspirational outdoorsy kind of imagery in our brand is probably through that tagline, which is like, have a great cup of coffee, then go and climb a mountain. Have a great cup of coffee, go and win the soapbox derby, or don't even bother trying.
Well, I mean, we've always. It actually took quite a while for the fact that isn't necessarily just about us to sink it. Like, because as soon as I read that, it's always been to me like it applies to us like really strongly, because a lot of my closest friends all work at Cairngorm. They're the people I spend most of my time around, and the team's fantastic.
So nice you say that about me.
But even like if you look back at like the summer banger, the video that we did, like that is just like a slice of just like such a fantastic time.
I worry though that it's growing in status.
It's
like
it's
cult
just
status.
so
Are we going to be able to
pressure's on for this
Are we
year,
going to beat
like,
it? Like, how are we going to make a better summer banger party?
that's miserable. It's
Get
just
Jack
around
back
to
on the
making coffee.
lasers and the vibes. And I think actually, to be fair, give him a shout out. Jack did a great job on like the visuals and the imagery.
That
for
video is
whole
excellent, Jack.
Summer project. So I guess the dream is to kind of try and beat that this year. But before that, we've got some exciting projects. Not least the Easter launch of this coffee, which we don't really know what it's called at this point, but spring something, Easter something, maybe Easter egg, maybe something better than that.
Easter egg.
So I think that just about wraps us up on that conversation. But obviously we're going to now go and do some actual making of great memories.
Let's
which
do
I'm
it.
quite excited about.
Yeah, you got to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk.
It's a bit like no, I can't say this. I will get cancelled. I will get cancelled. I don't know why I didn't even think of it, but it's like it's almost like an old show where I make your dreams come true, which is very problematic. But it's forget I said that. We're going to make some great memories.
Nice.
Is there any Easter egg nuggets you want to leave us with before?
Easter egg nuggets.
We're going to be getting very cold, and then I think we'll probably be getting quite warm.
Interesting.
I was going to say quite quickly, but I don't know why.
I don't know.
Have you brought a towel? Is that why you're going to get warm?
I've got a towel.
Oh, what could they need a towel for? Keep on following to find out. Thank you for listening along. That's been a bit of a different tangent. Quite nice to discuss coffee in a different setting, I suppose. And I would say thank you to Cam and George for coming along and also driving the narrative here, because you guys, to be fair, have been relatively persistent with wanting to do some outdoors content, and I completely understand it. And I think it wasn't until we started exploring it, to try and work out how that might look. I'm actually quite buzzed about it now. So I think
Just like when we're out in the hills and things, and we're obviously going to start taking pictures of what we're making in terms of coffee. Your immediate reaction is to be like, send that to Robbie, because that's a good picture.
I did post one of them.
It's a good picture.
Yeah. If you guys have any ideas for what their new Instagram handle should be,
Always should send us
the Bothy
next, you know.
I think the Bothy Boys would be quite a good one, or is that already a thing?
No, I
Bothy
think-
boys ain't the
I think
thing.
that would go, yeah.
The Bothy Boys.
Bothy brews.
The Bothy Boys will fix it. And we'll leave it at that. But thank you very much for listening along. And if you are just listening on the podcast, then don't forget you can watch the video and see what Cam and George look like, see what I look like on our YouTube channel, where we will beg once more for you to please subscribe us. And I won't say it again, but we need some more likes. We need some more views. Otherwise, we're going to have to stop doing this. No, seriously, we'll do this forever. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you another time. Goodbye.